Hello and welcome to the Voice CEO Flash Briefing. My name's Jose Cotto and I am the Voice CEO, and let's jump into today's voice technology news. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. It is November 8th, 2019, and let's dive right into this week's voice technology news. We cannot start this week's briefing without saying happy birthday to Amazon Alexa. Amazon Alexa was introduced to the world just 5 years ago today. Can you believe it? November 6th, 2015. On that date, Amazon dared to assume that we'd want their omnipresent devices in our home to give us voice first experiences into the Amazon ecosystem, and boy, were they right. Like the launch of the iPhone, the launch of the Amazon Alexa on November 6th, along with its ecosystem of devices that soon followed, will be seen in history as the epicenter of the next shift of human to technology interaction. So, everybody, get together and wish happy birthday to Alexa. So next up was a report that came out actually towards the end of last week from VoiceBot.ai. The report, which was completed in collaboration with Orbita, was an analysis on the consumer adoption of voice technology as it relates to healthcare. So I just want to go through some of the key highlights and takeaways for me personally from the report. So diving right in, one of the first things that impressed me about the report was that they didn't just take into account or focus on your smart speakers kind of devices, right? Which is where most of us would gravitate first when we hear about a report like this. It wasn't just about the Amazon Echo and the Google Home and how that plays a role in healthcare. It was really about the voice technology itself. So the devices they really considered were definitely smart speakers, of course, but they also looked at voice-enabled smart TVs, voice-powered appliances, smart watches, car-based voice assistants, laptops, really any device that has the potential to be one of these voice-first interactions, right? And that I think was super important going into this report is knowing that they had the mindfulness to really focus more on the voice technology medium versus a specific type of channel or device. And going through some of the key takeaways for me personally of the report, top of the list definitely is that consumers were, really hard on smartphones as their voice channel of choice, which personally makes a ton of sense to me, right? Siri was really the first experience the mass market had when it came to voice assistants, and that was back in 2011 on I think it was the iPhone 4S. And for most of us, it really helped start the conversation around the benefits, advantages, and pitfalls of talking to our devices, right? So it makes a ton of sense to me personally that smartphones, that fifth appendage of ours, ended up being, I think it was 52% of respondents that participated preferred smartphones as their channel of choice. And really, that makes a ton of sense, right? Because we take this technology that we're totally comfortable with and we use that to bridge us into a more obscure experience, like completing a health check via voice, right? I firmly believe this is no different than the migration trend we saw as businesses were migrating to the web, except much faster, right? We're going to use the things that we're used to, that we're comfortable with, like our smartphones, to start amplifying our new way of engagement, which is voice. The final important point or takeaway I got from the report was that voice strategy isn't an isolated thing. And I think it's a super important takeaway to get from this report. Your voice strategy needs to work off of and build off of a more holistic strategy that includes all your digital channels, not just a voice engagement via Amazon Alexa or Google Assistant. This is a key point to consider as this doesn't just apply to healthcare, right? This is really any industry where voice technology is making an impact and can make an impact, which me personally, of course, I believe that's every industry, right? Every industry will be impacted by the promise and the pitfalls of voice tech. So moving forward, you have to know how to properly leverage voice to amplify the engagement. And what is key there really is this multi-channel approach to voice strategy as part of your overall digital strategy. Rolling right along, the Canadian Down Syndrome Society launched a campaign this week in cooperation with Google to help improve Google's voice recognition technology. The program will gather voice samples from those living with Down syndrome as they record pre established phrases. These recordings will then presumably be used to teach the voice recognition algorithms how to better understand the speech patterns of those individuals living with Down syndrome. The expectation, which I think is a fantastic one, is that if we can get the devices to better understand people living with one form of speech impediment or another, then we can help them live better lives through augmentation with voice first technology. Ed Casagrande, the chair of the Canadian Down Syndrome Society, shares his hope in that eventually his daughter will be able to have a more independent life, doing things like using a voice first device to call for her driverless car to take her to work and bring her back safely, check the weather, or schedule an appointment, which will be a few years out, but still great stuff nonetheless. And finally, this week, I'll wrap up with a bit of good/bad news. We heard this week that the Voice Summit has gotten too big for Newark. The premier tech conference for voice technology will not be held in Newark, New Jersey in 2020, where it's been held the last couple of years, and instead will be held in Washington, D.C. I'm bummed that they won't be back in Newark again, as I'm a native of the area, but I'm excited to see the growth of the conference and the industry as a whole. I'm actually happy that they picked Washington, D.C., as it's definitely one of my favorite places to visit with my girls. And that's your week's voice technology news highlights. This is Jose Cotto, the Voice CEO, wishing you a fantastic weekend and a wonderful and healthy week ahead. For show notes, please visit truereply.com/The Voice CEO.